Hi, welcome to this video. I wanted to talk very briefly about something that I did a video. I did sort of a ramble video. I'm out at some wooded areas, and I'm just talking away about how hard it is to try and have social interaction with people now. And it just made me think that a couple of people made a comment about that video and said, they kind of actually agreed that it does seem to be really, really difficult. Now, where I was coming from on that video was sort of more, if you like, the social interaction. And when I mean social networking and social interaction, I mean about the physical bit, right? The face-to-face bit, not the whole social media rubbish that people have been sucked into. Which, by the way, I think people are awakening to and becoming more aware of the fact of how much time people waste on this social, the social media, the internet, social media, that is very destructive. And of course, it's very manipulative because it just basically gets hijacked by businesses and companies who just see it as a platform to advertise on. And of course, everything behind the scenes on those networks, those social networks online, are all manipulated by corporations and governments and such like. So, it didn't start like that. If I take, for instance, Facebook, okay, if we take that, when it first started, brilliant, absolutely amazing idea, and it was good. It was good because it did open up the whole idea that you could actually start connecting with relatives that were distant and relatives that were halfway around the world, and you hadn't contacted them for a long time, and it was very easy, quick and easy to sort of interact. Social media nowadays on online, unfortunately, is now, as I said, being hijacked by the big corporations, and it's all manipulative. Okay, so it's all designed to try and waste your time, to brainwash and snoop, if you like, on what people are talking about, what they're doing. The whole marketing strategy of trying to monitor what it is people are buying and looking at and then searching for, and it's just crazy. I mean, it really is. It's crazy. So we've now become isolated again, in my opinion. I think I'm seeing this with clients as well, where they're so-called connected to people via social networks and internet, but they're not anymore. Okay, so they're not having the conversations anymore because they're afraid of being monitored. They're afraid of people's opinions. You go onto these networks now and you're just bombarded by advertising and marketing and brainwashing, which is why I dropped them about 15-20 years ago, because of that problem. So it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. Now, where are we going? What's changing? I think people have, in the last few years, let's say, have begun to realize, I'm coming across more and more people that say, oh, well, I don't have social networks anymore, right? So I'm talking about the internet stuff. The problem being, of course, now is they haven't got that what little bit of interaction we have nowadays with family and friends and such like. We now don't have that any. It's gone. I don't want to sit there on any of these things and just browse, constantly flicker through advertising and marketing and brainwashing and such like. And yet I'm seeing the younger generation, let's say the last 2 generations of people, are so sucked into this now because they've grown up with it. They don't know any different. They don't know what it was like before all this internet, social interaction stuff, the whole matrix, black hole control that these massive corporations and such like have got hold of now, these last 2 generations of people. And it's frightening. It is frightening, because you sit on a bus, you sit on a train, you go anywhere, like a restaurant, you go anywhere outside, you know, you wander around a village, you wander around a town, you come out to a forest like this, an amazingly beautiful forest, and people are constantly on their phone, and I don't know what it is they're doing, but they're constantly flick, 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 flick. You see it on trains, you see it on buses, and I predicted this, right? Early 2000s, I predicted when smartphones came in. I wish I'd done a video, right? I really do wish I'd done a video, but I could see already at the beginning of the kind of smartphone technology coming in, where internet access was actually readily available on your phone. I mean, before that, it cost an arm and a leg, right? You know, you couldn't, and it was so small, you know, there weren't any apps around, and you had to use a clunky old phone to try and browse the internet. I mean, you were lucky to try and get emails. Sorry, there's noise all of a sudden. Here we go. We're in the middle of beautiful forest, and all of a sudden we've got helicopters flying over, so apologies for that. But you know, it's and then it just exploded, right? So then we saw the onset of smartphones basically overtook the other kind of what I'm calling the practical phone that people used to just literally text on or call. And people then eventually got sucked in more and more and more. And of course, like most things, that technology that sort of comes out for people, especially with the onset of the internet, it just gets flooded. It gets absolutely flooded with commercialism, brainwashing, control by massive corporations, and it becomes then cold, right? It sort of starts off with the passion of somebody's idea of trying to link people together and communicate, which then just becomes a platform for people to advertise on. And it is such a shame. It really is. I'm noticing more and more that, let's go back very early, second generation, 2 generations ago, and certainly third generation back on and onwards. People are leaving all that behind. They're leaving all this internet social interaction and these internet social networks now. More and more, I'm you know, Facebook. I use Facebook obviously for my business, but that's it. I mean, I'm not pushing adverts out. I'm not, you know, I'm just using it as a way because people are on there. I mean, there are still lots of people on there, obviously. What I'm trying to do is pull people away from it, really, and I think that's what will happen. I think eventually people will just give up on all these internet social networks. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this, because it made me think, if on a business level it's difficult to try and interact with people and meet in groups face to face and have that physical face to face interaction with people, if we haven't got the internet social network and we no longer have the face to face social network, there is a massive disconnect there. It's absolutely huge, and it absolutely doesn't surprise me that people are disconnected, right? So they're disconnected from their clients, they're disconnected from each other, we're disconnected from the earth, we're disconnected from social interaction face to face with people. It's difficult. It's really, really difficult, and it just got me thinking, you know, we need to change. This has got to change. We need to get back to that whole physical social networking bit. And it's just, in my opinion, it's just got to happen. Now, I'm also noticing, and I'm observant of behaviour patterns and such like with people. I've also noticed in the last couple of years that when you come out to somewhere like here, I've been coming out here for decades, right? You'd be walking around and I'd say hello to somebody and they'd like look at you really weird, or, you know, they just put their head down and just continue walking. I've noticed actually that the third generation back and older are I think are now becoming more aware that we need to communicate with people, even if it's, oh, hi, how are you? You know, isn't it lovely out here, and all that kind of thing. You know, I'm noticing now people are actually responding more. So you say hello. I haven't given up saying hello to people and isn't it a lovely morning and all the rest of it. And 9 times out of 10, you'd never get a response. I would say that's down to the other way now. I would say I'd get responses 8 out of 10, right? You still get the odd person that sort of looks at you a bit weird and whatever, and I guess they're in their own little world, and you know, they just think people who say hello to them are weird or something. I don't know. But I have noticed that shift, but not with the last 2 generations of people. They are still so much wrapped up in their digital device, which is obviously giving them, or they perceive that it's giving them everything they need with regard to social networks, both online and, you know, I guess they haven't really experienced the whole physical social network thing. They think that's it, and it's alien to them. You know, it's really alien to them, unless of course they've been brought up by parents who, you know, have encouraged them to be face-to-face social, you know, socially connected to people. It is interesting, and I want to, one of my things is that I want to try and get back to people being face-to-face social networking, right? You know, meeting people, having conversations, you know, and no judgment, right? So the internet social networking thing has been very good for people to be so isolated. They can sit there and say something really nasty to somebody, and then it makes them feel good, and they don't have to worry about it, but they have no effect, they have no accountability for their actions or whatever it is they've said online. Of course, you can't do that when you're face-to-face social networking with people. You need that feedback in a way, and we need to get back to this. You know, this is the support that we get from people, even people we don't really know. You know, if you go into a group or you go to a party or whatever, I mean, again, you know, I could talk about this subject for hours on end. I mean, there's just so many things where you see this breakdown of face-to-face social interaction with people. I've been to parties where, you know, apart from maybe the little clique of people that they're with, the rest of the time they're walking around so they're at a party and they're walking around with their phone. Or they're sitting down and they're not really engaging with anyone that they're sitting down with at the table, because everyone is on their phone flicking around with it. Or they're taking literally hundreds of photographs and, you know, going live and all that kind of thing. And it's just been really interesting to see this break down over the last, well, it's broken down even more obviously the last sort of 5 or 6 years for obvious reasons. But yeah, I just think we need to get back to that whole face-to-face social interaction again. And I'm not going to stop being nice to people. I'm not going to stop saying hi to people and interacting with them. And I think the more that we try to do that with people, I think it will turn the tide on this whole disconnect that people have got. And then their mental health problems will improve. I mean, that's the other crazy thing, is that I think an awful lot of the mental health problems that people, especially young people, are experiencing now they've been sucked into it, you know? They've been sucked into this whole disconnect, and then they don't understand why. And of course the older generations also can't understand why, because if you were angry or whatever before, you'd go off and have a walk, or you'd go off with your mates and talk about it and get it off your mind, deal with it that way. It's very interesting how things are now. I welcome your comments. It'd be interesting to interact. And yeah, I just think it's an interesting observation, and we need to turn the tide on this, really. People need to get back to being local, and interact and make those connections again, and bring societies back together again. It's very, very important. It's very important for mental health. It's very important for physical health and everything. The state that you are in, for family networks. All of that is really, really important. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again in another video.